Hello everybody, welcome to episode 11 of Radio Europa. My name's Laura, I'm your host from over in Yorkshire in England, and today I'm with Alex from Italy, Darth from Scotland, and our special guest from South Africa, Nicolaas. Just before we start this episode, which is going to focus on South Africa, if anybody's interested in the Swedish election, please do check out our last podcast episode. It's about 25 minutes long. It's on our YouTube channel, and we cover the current situation over in Sweden and parties of interest. So it's a Swedish election on the 9th of September, so feel free to check out that episode. Okay, so today we're going to focus on South Africa. And as I said, we've got our special guest from South Africa, who is Nick. So Nick, would you like to introduce yourself? Maybe tell us a little bit about yourself and what's the situation like over there at the moment?
Hi guys, I'm Nicolaas. I'm here from South Africa. I'm an Afrikaner. I've grown up in the farming community. My father, grandfather, and great-grandfather were all farmers. I'm in the consulting business. I do consulting on farms. The situation around here at the moment, I can say it's quite calm. I think the government and all the other politicians are trying to figure out what to make of Trump's tweet and how to go about furthering the land expropriation issue. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks for that. We will get on to Trump's tweet at the moment because obviously that was a huge moment in this situation, and it's kind of thrown the mainstream media into panic mode. But what I'd like to do on this episode, because I assume that a lot of our followers already know about the farm murders and the land expropriation, what I'd like to do is just try and expel some myths that are going around, and we've got you here, so it's kind of like straight from the horse's mouth. We can get first-hand information. So the first one is that whenever I'm on social media and I'm reading about this land expropriation, a lot of people seem to think that the land was stolen from black people, from European colonisers going over there and taking the land from them. I understand that there was actually 126 years before the Afrikaners and the black people actually came into contact for the first time. Can you perhaps give us a little overview on that situation? Because the land isn't stolen, is it? It was you guys that were there first.
Yeah, that's correct. Well, the Dutch arrived at the Cape of Good Hope in 1652, and their first introduction to the blacks or the Bantus were at Vis River when the voortrekkers started moving out into the inlands. So yeah, it's about 120 years when the Bantu started with the Great Migration. I think anyone that's got Google can go and look at Wikipedia, where they explain the Great Bantu Migration from Central Africa down into Southern Africa. So they claim that they were here first is total nonsense. They're also colonizers of South Africa. The indigenous tribes here were the Khoi and the San. So we haven't stolen any land from any Bantu tribes. They're as much colonizers here as we are.
And why do you think it is that they think that they have a right to this land? Is this taught in like education establishments, or like where do they get this idea from?
Well, anytime I engage one of them on Twitter, where they say that we've stolen the land, they'll say that they are Africans and they belong in Africa and we don't. We belong in Europe. So they get that from the fact that they are Africans and they believe that the whole of Africa belongs to them. They say that the border lines around South Africa were made by the colonizers, the Dutch and the English that arrived here. There weren't any borders, and so South Africa were part of Africa, and they are Africans, and so South Africa belongs to them.
Right, okay. So, by the way, Alex and Darth, feel free to chip in with anything here, because we're going to talk about the media. So the media have basically been saying for the last few years that nothing is going on in South Africa. There's no farm murders, or it's just a normal part of life. There's nothing going on with the land expropriation. It's all fair. It's all done by the book. And all of a sudden, Donald Trump has tweeted this tweet about investigating the situation over there, and the media have just gone into like full blown panic mode. Really, I think that they can't admit that something is happening over there because they've ignored it for so long. So if they turn if they go back on what they've already said, it kind of looks a bit bad. But so they are saying, they're publishing articles that the farm murders over there are actually on a 20-year low, and they're actually decreasing. And Nick, I know that you and I looked through the stats, didn't we? And they missed out quite a lot, didn't they? They were classing like 8 farm murders as one farm murder and things like that. Are the farm murders decreasing, or is it increasing, or what's it like?
Well, if you look at it firstly, people are completely ignoring the fact that the numbers of commercial farmers have dropped tremendously. There are far less farmers now than there were 20, 24 years ago. I mean, in 1994, when power was handed over to the ANC, there were 120,000 commercial farmers in South Africa. And well, we're left with little less than 35,000 farmers. So, of course, that will also have an effect on the amount of people farmers getting murdered, because there's less farmers that's getting murdered. But if you go and look at politics webs, well, they've got well-grounded analysis of the South African Police Service statistics. You will find that those figures are implausible and to begin with, and is very wrong.
I mean, the source to begin with is not trustworthy, is it? The people producing the stats are kind of the people that are covering it up anyway. Darth, have you seen the Farmlands documentary that Lauren Southern did?
No, I haven't. I have been intending to watch it. I saw some of it when after she'd been over there. She had interviewed 2 of the women who are effectively crime scene investigators. Yeah. And they were having to be extremely careful of what they said, kind of on the record, because if they would ultimately either run the risk of losing their job, or probably much worse.
Yeah, have you seen it, Alex? Have you seen the documentary?
I watched parts of it, some clips. I didn't watch the full thing, but the parts I watched were, first of all, heartbreaking, and also very interesting, because in the end, what Lauren Southern has done is basically covering something that nobody has done before, like in a professional way, of course. I'm saying there were people talking about South Africa for years, but she's basically probably one of the main people bringing this topic to the mainstream, which I'm very thankful for this. And I think anyone should watch the documentary, and I'm pretty sure that even Donald Trump watched it, considering that he even tweet about it. And talking about farmlands and the effect they had on mainstream media, Trump has made it even bigger, because his tweet, of course, caused a media shitstorm with all the leftists basically scrambling around, trying to basically counter reality. And I really want to talk about what Vox has done, which I can't still believe that it's actually happened, because, I mean, I know journalists have an agenda, most of them. I mean, all of them. I mean, we do, in a way, have an agenda ourselves, but they can't be this open about it. There's this article about Trump's tweet, titled, "Trump's tweet echoing white nationalist propaganda about South African farmers explained," where they go on, blaming Trump for being a white nationalist, bacon, and all the usual bullshit they say about Trump. Okay, we got used to that, but then they say something that is scary, okay, but truly showing their true colors. They say whether or not it's actually true is irrelevant. They're basically saying that they don't fucking care if white people are dying in South Africa. They just don't care. And if you care, you're a white nationalist. It's crazy. And in a way, I'm thankful, because you see, this is the stuff that wakes up people. This is like the big red pills, okay? Like, you see the hatred towards your people, and you realize that there is something against you.
Yeah, definitely. And The Guardian actually published an article saying, don't focus on the actual words of what Trump has said, look at the deeper meaning or something. So they're basically saying this is a white nationalist talking point, but that doesn't negate the fact that it's happening. And what they're saying there is, because white nationalists talking about this, we should be ignoring the fact that people are being murdered. It's absolutely vile. Nick, what are your thoughts on that? Because you're over there in the thick of it, and then we've got the media over here covering it up, and there are people that are trying to talk about it, but then the media are saying, no, just ignore it. It's just a white supremacist made up theory. How does that feel to see the media doing that?
No, I mean, people that dismiss the concern about farm murders and the horrific tortures that accompanies it as an exaggeration of the problem shows a lack of sensitivity towards victims of farm murders. I mean, if you go and look at statistics on farm murders by the Agricultural Union, and you also include verifiable victim names, farm names, and dates when the murders were committed, it all confirm that farm murders were at their highest levels in 13 years last year. So, I mean, there's so much proof that we can lay on the table to prove that there's a serious problem here, and they're just covering it up.
Yeah, and the reason why I mentioned the Farmlands documentary is because they obviously spoke to people firsthand. And I can't remember if it was Alex or Darth that just mentioned it, but there was a woman who was interviewed who actually goes up to clean up the bodies after the farm attacks, and she said that it had changed from her getting a couple of calls every week to her getting a couple of calls every day. So I mean, if you're faced with a choice to believe somebody like that who's in the thick of it, or believe the government who are covering up fake stats and fudging them to make them look better, and that kind of situation, I know who I would believe. Let's focus on the media a little bit more, because they're absolutely vile. I can't believe how much they're covering up murder just because.
Can I jump in here?
Victims are white. Yeah, feel free, Dar. You talk.
It was kind of on the back of what Alex was saying. I was just looking at I googled earlier on just South Africa land reform, just to see. The first article was the Financial Times, and their headline is "Why South Africa land reform legislation?" And underneath that it says, "Donald Trump's clumsy intervention damages a legitimate cause." They have decided that this is a legitimate cause, and basically their justification for it being is ultimately identity politics. So they say 72% of farms and agriculture holdings in South Africa are owned by whites, and 24% of non-whites. Of the latter, just 4% are black Africans, who make up more than 3/4 of the population. So they're saying effectively, because there's more black people than white people, black people should have more land.
Yeah, it just gets into diversity quotas, doesn't it? Because the reason that the white people run the farms is because they're able to do it, and they're able to do it well, and they're needed to do that. So it's like in Britain, obviously nowhere near as extreme, but when we have positions available at the BBC and stuff, and they say, well, 15% of the population is non-white, therefore you need to have 15% of jobs doing that. And it's nothing to do with skill or being able to do something. It's just diversity quotas.
I think there was a headline yesterday or the day before. The BBC have gone further than that. There was somebody had said that the time of I'm paraphrasing here, but the time of old white men presenting information has come to an end, or something like that, and that was allegedly said by a kind of senior member of the BBC.
Yeah, I did see that actually. Sorry, Nick, you go.
Well, the fact remains that I mean, the government here in South Africa is very misleading. Saying that 72% of land belongs to whites, which is false, because I mean, the Rural Development and Land Reform made a research, and they found that 22% of the land belongs to white farmers. So it's a very misleading statement coming from the government, or propaganda from them to push their land expropriation.
Yeah, they just can't be trusted at all, can they?
How long, Nick, has the media been building this up for? I mean, obviously it's only really blown up in the last while, but there's obviously it's been rumbling on for a long time. But what is it, do you think, that's really caused them to ratchet this up?
Well, I think it's in support of the government and land reform. They believe that apartheid caused a lot of problems for the blacks, and we stole everything. According to them, we stole the whole of South Africa, all the land here. And so they're pushing that narrative of that we need to give back everything to the government. And I think the government's looking at not redistribution, they're looking at nationalizing the land. If you look, they already have more than 4,000 farms, and they haven't redistributed a single one of those farms back to the black community.
Yeah. Alex, what do you think about the media's response to this in Europe, given the fact that they heavily focused on the Rohingya Muslims and the Syria refugees and stuff? What do you think of kind of the difference between how they focus on different groups of refugees?
It's always the same thing, the usual double standard, where basically if something bad happens to white people, they will try to spin it somehow to make it their fault. It's just it's always the same plan. And the Rohingya thing now has gone quiet. I'm not saying it's dead in the news, but basically dead, unless, I mean, if you go on the Times of India, yeah, you will find stuff about it, but on the West it's completely done, because probably they didn't get the attention they wanted. But I still remember the time when I wrote my article about it, how basically every single media outlet, even the so-called conservative ones, in unison were basically saying that the Rohingya were the victims and all that stuff, and they were like saying, oh, we need to mobilize, but now basically nobody's talking about it in a positive way, except Fox News in America, for example. But because Fox News has someone like Tucker is a blessing. I love the guy, but beyond Fox News, nobody's covering it properly, and everyone is basically siding with the government. And even like an European government today, with May, basically sided with the ANC on the land reform position. They're basically saying yes, as long as it's legal. But do these people realize that something being legal doesn't mean it's fair? Like, I know May has been like being trashed by everyone, but she's like reaching peak disaster now, because first she basically fucked up Brexit, and now she's basically supporting white genocide in South Africa, and she's supposedly a right-winger. It's mad.
Yeah, she's openly, well, her government have openly said that they support it as long as it's legal and it's done fairly, which it isn't done fairly, is it? And she's over there dancing today. Did you see the video of her dancing?
Oh, that was cringeworthy.
Yeah.
I don't know how she can support legal land theft at the end of the day, because that's what it gets down to. You've got even here in South Africa, where they had the land hearings right across the country. What chance does 4 million whites stand against 45 million voting on land? I mean, that's not fair in any way. You're going to have 45 million blacks saying, yeah, we want the land, and you're going to have 4 million whites opposing that. There's nothing fair regarding that option.
Yeah, that's why democracies, in situations like this where it's not homogenous, democracy is just an absolute nightmare, because they vote for more of their people to come over here, and then there's a bigger percentage of them to vote for bills and laws that they want to promote, and you just end up digging a hole and getting into it deeper and deeper. Sorry, come on.
I was going to say, on what Nick was saying, you can't believe that May, supports something like this. There was a headline earlier on, and it said something along the lines of Theresa May will support the land reforms provided that they are legal. It's so funny, you know. I heard somebody drawing a comparison earlier on. It's saying, you know, Theresa May supports people being put in gulags as long as it's legal in the Soviet Union. You know, it's as long as there's a law there to allow you to do this, it's okay. It doesn't matter if it's completely immoral or against people's human rights. It's all right as long as a law's been written for it.
She's just a puppet. She's like an empty shell. She has no passion or no opinions on anything. I just feel like she's being controlled by whoever it is that's behind pulling the strings, and she's just appeasing people and doing whatever she's told to do. I mean, the fact that she calls herself a conservative is just ridiculous. One other question, Nick, is that a lot of people have been saying on Twitter that the farm attacks are not racial, and lots of black farmers are being attacked too. Do you have any information on that? Do you think it is racial? Per capita earlier, when we spoke about the number of farmers dropping from 120,000 to 30,000, are white farmers disproportionately being targeted if we look at the figures per capita?
Yes, no, definitely. AfriForum did a study where they found that every time the politicians sang their struggle songs like Kill the Boer and One Bullet, One Settler, farm murders actually picked up, and it was white farmers that got targeted. So, I mean, also the fact that the majority of farmers are white, and the majority of farmers that's targeted are white, and the majority of farm murders are white farmers. So it's definitely a racial thing. If you look at how the Malema pushes his narrative of expropriation, and he openly says, cut the throat of whiteness, and his followers takes that literally. They don't understand what the metaphor means. So if he says cut the throat of whiteness, they think, go and cut the throat of a white man.
Yeah. I mean, it's difficult to entertain people when they say that it's not racial when you've got people singing songs about killing you. I don't know how they get away with it. Alex, do you have any thoughts on that or anything to add?
Yes. I want to make a comparison that probably most people already thought about Zimbabwe. We already know what happened when the communists got into power. With Mugabe, they basically destroyed a small country that used to be the granary of Africa, and we're seeing it happening again. It's just the same bullshit over again. Blacks get brainwashed by the communists. They're basically told that the white devils have all the money and all the land, and they deserve to be basically taken out and take their stuff. But what happens next is the country is gonna basically starve, and these people just don't get it. Like you can show them the data showing how basically Zimbabwe, from basically when it was born after the destruction of the beautiful Rhodesia, the white farmers were basically hunted down and kicked out. The country fell into a huge crisis. Then inflation happened, and their currency was basically without value. And if we look at South Africa from an economical point of view, already now, before the possible end exploitation, they're not healthy economically. Their unemployment is huge. Their crime rates are huge, and it's not an healthy country. And these people are just pushing the country towards a possible civil war. And in the end, as we previously mentioned, South Africa is not an homogeneous country, and not just because there is, blacks and white, but even among blacks there is division. We have the small minority of Khoisan. I believe they're a small minority. Then we have the Bantus and the Zulus. And as far as I know, and Nick can correct me if I'm wrong, these tribes are not that friendly with each other. And in a scenario of a civil war, I wouldn't be shocked if basically some kind of free-for-all would start. Because, I mean, it's Africa. We've seen it happening in many other countries. So it's like a bomb ready to explode. And the politicians behind the ANC and the communist AFF, they're just putting gas on the fire.
Yeah, well, they're pushing for a civil war. I think at the end of the day, they'd like to see that play out, especially Julius Malema. Every time he gets a chance, he stands on a podium and screams murder towards the white community in South Africa. And yes, I think the different black tribes also, the Zulus, they're a tribe of their own. And, well, they told Ramaphosa straight, if you're going to try to touch our land in the Inguyama Trust, you can expect a war from our side. So it's a violent situation in South Africa. South Africa is a very violent country. If you take farmers, for instance, you know, a farmer's chances of being killed is estimated to be 3.2 times higher than the country's murder rate. And South Africa has an outrageously high murder rate. So, you know, farm murder is a serious crisis that needs urgent attention. And I'm glad Donald Trump placed a huge spotlight on that, because he brought millions of people's attention to farm murders and land expropriation. And a lot of people are only now familiarizing themselves with the facts that's going on in South Africa. I've engaged with a few people from overseas America that told me they didn't have a clue about all this going on in South Africa.
Yeah, and sorry, go on there.
Sorry, Laura,
It's okay.
I keep managing to do that.
It's fine, you go.
No, I was going to say, Nick, on kind of the violence side, kind of a two-pronged question. How much, on average, would you say a white farmer has to invest in the security of their land? And obviously, I don't know how much you want to say on the second question. What kind of security measures do you need to put in place to at least ensure some safety of you and your families on the land?
Well, I think it's a very important investment for any farmer to spend huge amounts of money on safety on farms. Because if you look at Stellenbosch, you know, you got that 900 land grabbers there that just invaded the farmers' land, and they refuse to move. I mean, that can happen to anyone, anytime. You wake up the next morning and you've got 900 land grabbers on your farm. So, no, it's important for each farmer to invest in security, especially on your family, around your home. I mean, where I live, I've got security doors, burglar bars on each and every window, and not only outside, inside the house, where you go into the spare room or into the main bedroom, into the kitchen. Each door has a security door on it. You can't be too safe, and you have to, if you can afford it, you need to get a gun to protect yourself.
And there was a possibly misleading headline on that the other day that I read, was that the government is pushing for people to hand in their firearms. You know, and we saw what happened with Venezuela when they were asking for people to hand in their firearms, and then the next thing you know, the country's gone severely downhill. But what are the kind of the laws on firearms in South Africa?
Well, the laws are quite strict. You need to go for evaluation before you can even think of purchasing a firearm. And after purchasing the firearm, you have to fill in the documents at the police station. And from there, they will see if they're going to allow you to have a firearm. So it's a long process. Some people are waiting a year and a half to get their firearms. So it's not very easily to get a firearm for yourself.
And
but it's possible.
Has there been any claims or any kind of data to suggest that white farmers are rejected firearms applications over any other people in the country?
No, I can't. I won't say that. I think all over it's difficult to get a firearm in South Africa. The government don't want the population armed. They are looking at disarming the population, so that they can control them easier. You spoke about where you say the government wants the firearm owners to hand in their weapons. And it's something that AfriForum and some other organizations are fighting against. I think it's about 400,000 firearm owners who were late with their renewal of their firearm licenses. And the government didn't want to give them any grace on that. So yeah, it's a big situation where they are really trying to disarm the population.
Thanks for that.
And they are trying to make it look like, they're not only targeting whites, so that it doesn't look funny to anyone.
Well, Nick, is obviously Russia and Australia have been in conversations about offering asylum to you guys. What is your thoughts on that? Because I imagine that you want to stay, you don't want to flee. Is there are you kind of torn on that? Do you kind of want to move away to be safer, but also want to stay in your own country, or do you just want to stay in your own country?
Well, just to pack up and leave is difficult. I mean, I'm an Afrikaner. Afrikaners came to existence in South Africa. Farming is in our blood, and Africa is in our blood, and it's not that easy to take your belongings or leave your belongings and move to another country and start over again. I think at the end of the day, whatever happens, we're going to stand and fight. We're not going to just back up and leave. And I think the majority of Afrikaners feel the way I'm feeling now.
Yeah. Well, what we will do under this episode is we'll put your Twitter account, because we usually do it for the people that are on the show. And if anybody's listening, do follow Nick, because he does post about the situation in South Africa a lot. He completely debunks mainstream media headlines and puts, real, raw information out there. Any stats that you do see from the mainstream media, don't trust them, because they're not from a reliable source. Completely fudge them anyway. But do follow accounts like Nick's, and I know you retweet a lot of your friends, don't you, who are also over in South Africa.
Yes.
They're the accounts that you want to follow, because that's where you're going to find the truth, really. There is also a hashtag on Twitter, which is, I think it might even be trending, or we're trying to get it trending anyway. And it's, have you guys seen that, where people are filming themselves talking about the situation over there and saying, this is the truth, don't believe the mainstream media? I've heard a couple of them saying that everybody either knows somebody that's been affected by a farm attack, or they've been affected by a farm attack themselves. That's how kind of often it's happening now. Have you guys seen that hashtag, or any of the videos where people are talking about their experience over there? Yeah,
I watched a couple of them, and especially the one I prefer is the one from Danny Barnard. Forgive me if I pronounce your name wrongly. These videos are very important, and this kind of trend is starting thanks to Trump, because these people now, they no longer feel alone, maybe, and having the support of the strongest leader in the West is not something that happens every single day. And my main issue is that these videos are beautiful, and Danny's video got 28,000 retweets and 31,000 likes. It's huge. That's a lot of views, also 700,000 almost. But the thing is, Trump cannot stop at just one single tweet. We need that man to do something. Let it be sanctions or even intervention, whatever. Just do something, Trump. This is the occasion where this man can actually make the change for some country that is not America and not in the Middle East. I mean, let's not talk about that, because it's another topic. But I really hope that Trump does something about this, and he has the power to do it.
Yeah, can you imagine the response if he actually did something? Judging by the response of him just saying that he wants an investigation, the left would be in complete meltdown mode, wouldn't they? Okay, so sorry, go on.
No, I just wanted to add to that. This small tweet, what a difference. So I think Trump has more power than we realize. If he can make awareness like that with one tweet. That's something spectacular.
Yeah, it's been non-stop, hasn't it, since he tweeted that? It's just been absolutely all over the news, all over Twitter. Okay, so I think we'll finish up, unless does anybody have any other points they want to add or any issues they'd like to raise? No? Okay. Nick, we asking what we can do to help. I know we're not over in your country or even your continent, but is there anything that we can do to help? Is there anything that we can share online or anything that we can do to chip in, really?
Well, I think the only thing we can do at this moment is just to get as many people aware of what's South Africa. The more people becomes aware of the atrocities happening here, I think not to push their governments to intervene. I think awareness is the biggest and most important thing we need to do now.
Yeah, and we have been reporting on it at Defend Europa for since we were formed, actually, about 1.5 years ago. So we'll keep writing those articles, and if you do follow us on our Twitter account, do keep retweeting. Give Nick a follow as well, and he posts lots of threads about the situation over there, so they're also worth a retweet. Okay, so I think we'll finish for today. Nick, we wish you all the best and hope that it works out for you over there, and hope you manage to keep yourself safe. Darth, Alex, any final words? Or
no, I would just reiterate what you just said. Nick, make sure you stay safe. I know you don't need somebody to tell you that, but you're in my prayers for sure that you stay safe while you're over there.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, same, give my prayers. You and all the poor people.
Yes, and we all would like to thank the international community for their support, really. It helps us a lot around here.
Okay, brilliant. Well, if you've listened, thank you for listening, and please do give us a subscribe and a thumbs up. Do give Nick a follow on Twitter as well. And yeah, that's it. We'll see you next week. So thanks for listening, and bye for now.